Hello there, I'm Juliana Michaels, and I'm so happy to be back on the 49 and Market YouTube channel. In this video, I'm sharing how I use the 49 and Market envelope gatefold flip folio in white and combined it with the Krafty Garden collection to create a junk journal. This isn't a process video, but rather a walkthrough of the completed album and how I modified the envelope gatefold flip folio to create my own custom junk journal and how beautifully the 49 and Market products work for creating one. If you aren't familiar with junk journaling, it's really just a handmade book put together with materials that you might usually throw away, such as tickets, brochures, fabric scraps, magazines, newspapers, book pages, stamps, and more. You can also include photos, dried flowers, ribbon, and buttons. Really, the sky's the limit. I like to stretch this definition a little, and instead of using junk, I like to use the paper crafting supplies that I tend to collect and hoard, such as pretty pattern papers, die cuts, and stickers. It's also a great way for me to use those supplies instead of just looking at them. You can also do a combination of the two and include both truly recycled materials along with your precious paper crafting supplies. You also might be wondering, what do you do with a junk journal? Well, you can use it as a scrapbook of sorts to hold your memories in one place. You can also include handwritten journal entries, photos, and memorabilia. It can also be a great idea for a personalized gift by including items that connect you to and remind you of the person you're gifting it to. And like all hobbies, it can also just be a great way to relax and unwind. I use the envelope gatefold flip folio in white as the base of my junk journal. This kit includes 10 die-cut pieces that can be mixed and matched in a variety of configuration. It also includes 4 niobium magnets that can be used to help close the folio, if you actually remember to use them, but more on that later. Just make sure to use extra care when working with these magnets. They are really strong but also brittle, so they need to be handled with care to avoid injury. The folio size, once scored and closed, is 6 1/4 by 8 1/4 by 1/2 inch. Some of the other supplies that I use to create my junk journal are the Grove frame sets, teal frame sets. I use some Krafty Garden ephemera bits, teal ephemera stackers, Krafty Garden 6x8 collection papers. I also use some rub-ons from Krafty Garden, as well as some of the Krafty Garden laser cuts in the wildflowers and the elements. Now let me walk you through some of the details on my junk journal. So here's a look at the outside cover of the journal. And as you can see, I used some seam binding ribbon here to tie it closed. And this ribbon comes in different colors, but I like to get the white and then dye it to whatever color I want to coordinate with my project. And I typically use like distress spray stains. So I used a combination of some greens to create this ribbon. And then while you spray the ribbon and then while it's wet, you kind of crinkle it up and then you can let it dry naturally, or you can kind of crinkle and use a heat tool on a really low setting and dry it. I then just wrapped it around the outside of the journal and then adhered this little cluster on top to just kind of help hold it in place so that when you untie it, it's held in place and will stay connected to the album. This is also where you could use those magnets that come with it. I didn't plan super well, admittedly, and I got one magnet in under the paper and then I forgot to put the magnet on this side, but thankfully I was wanting to put a ribbon on here anyway, and I really love the effect that the ribbon adds to the overall design. As far as the cover here, I used the template that comes with the folio to create the cover for this part of the album, and I just used that template on a piece of the 6x8 Krafty Garden paper and cut it down to size. Throughout the journal, I inked the edges of most of the papers and ephemera and frames and such with distress ink in scorched timber, just to give it a little bit more of an aged effect. To embellish further here on the front, I just added various laser cuts and ephemera bits and frames, and then popped up some of those with some foam adhesive just to give it a little bit of dimension. So now we're gonna open this up, and again I use that template that comes with the folio to cut out a piece of pattern paper to cover the front here. You could also probably do a little decorating here if you'd like. You just kind of have to play around when you're adding the layers so that the folio still closes when you're all done. So as you open it up, then here's like the front inside, and for that, again, I just layered various frames and ephemera bits and laser cuts and just kind of created a little collage. This could also be a place where you could put a photo. You could also make a little pocket here if you wanted, and so that you could tuck some things in there, and this, or you could tuck things on the side. That's the wonderful thing about junk journaling, is just there's so many little ways you can make it interactive if you like. So now as we open up, this is kind of where I started doing a little bit of customizing. This folio comes with this piece that opens up, and just to make it so that it would tolerate the opening and closing and give it a little bit of support, I added some fabric tape along the seams, and then just to carry that look, I added it along the edge here as well. And then on the cover here, I just added some more pattern paper that I adhered and then layered on some ephemera bits. I added some rub-ons as well, and then just added this little cluster here. And then on the inside, more of the same, just adding some collage paper, a larger frame, and the back of this is also some pattern paper. This is one of the envelope pieces from the Krafty Garden ephemera that I cut and created my own little pocket. So this has like a little section across the top here, and so I just cut along that and then selected some of the ephemera pieces, and then that would fit in here. And you could write on these, do like little journaling. You could add photos in here to this pocket. There's so many ways you could just customize this and make it work for the purpose that you're creating a journal. As I mentioned, I love to create these sort of journals because it just gives me a chance to play with and use all those gorgeous supplies that I have. So now on to this inside piece here. Now more of the laser cuts and ephemera pieces just layered. There's also a little acetate piece layered underneath this laser cut, just to add a little bit of shimmer there, and some frames. This is one frame that I just cut in pieces, so I kept a little piece and tucked it over here, and then put this one and tucked it underneath that lace edge, and just kind of a way to get the most out of your supplies as well. Now onto the inside of the album here. On this page, again, another piece of the pattern paper was adhered to the background. And also for the base of the folio, I forgot to mention this, I inked all of that with that distress ink as well, just to give it a little bit more of an aged effect. And I really like the brown color with this collection. I thought it was a really nice contrast. This little envelope, I added just a little tag to that and tied on some twine, and then again just layered on some of the ephemera and laser cuts and frames to create this little collage on the inside. And again you could put whatever you like inside the pocket. And now for this section here, this is also kind of a custom piece that I used some of the spines that come with this kit and kind of created my own pocket. So I took one of the larger sheets that had like a spine already on it, and I just trimmed it and then added another spine to it, and then cut it at an angle, and then adhered it to the base here. And both of these then were just covered with some pattern paper. And then with the pocket again, then you can just kind of stick different bits of ephemera. You could add, if you're making this using some of your own recycled materials, you could put in any kind of memorabilia or tickets or anything like that that you might have. You could put photos, all that kind of stuff could be tucked into the pockets. And then here for this little cluster, again, just more of the laser cuts and another acetate piece and a little edge from one of the frames tucked in there. And then some of the layers just kind of popped up with some foam adhesive. And then to finish it all off, the last thing I added on the back of the folio, I just wanted to have that decorated too, so I added one of the less decorative papers to the back, and then another one of the ephemera bits to the back, just for a little bit of decoration there. I hope you enjoyed this flip through of my Dream Big Junk Journal using the Krafty Garden collection and the envelope gatefold folio. Until next time, stay curious and crafty, my friend.